Hello, and welcome to another episode of Snail Mail with Smokey. I hope you're having a great day wherever you're at. Thank you so much for watching, and I've got some really exciting news for you. This is not just an ordinary episode of Snail Mail with Smokey. In fact, this is Stamp versus Stamp episode 3. That's right, Rob, aka That Dad Guy, and I have teamed up once again to bring you this brand new episode of Stamp versus Stamp. So here's what you're going to see in today's videos. In the video that you're watching right now, Rob has given me 5 years. He's picked these years for whatever reason that he's picked them. Maybe it's the year his pet was born. Maybe it's the year he graduated kindergarten. We're going to find out together the years that he picked and why. And then it's my job to go and find a stamp that was released on that year. And then I'll show it to you and I'll tell you why I picked that particular stamp. I think this is a really fun video. You're going to really enjoy it. I had such a great time doing the research and finding the stamps. And then as soon as you're done watching my video, please go to That Dad Guy's channel and watch his video. In his video, I will give him 5 years, and I'll explain the reason that I picked those 5 years. And then he will show you the 5 stamps that he picked to correspond to each of those years. So it's going to be a really fun set of videos. But like I said, watch my video and then go and watch Rob's video. And if you've already watched Rob's video, then you know what's going on. And so welcome to the channel and thanks for watching. This is going to be really exciting. So let's get right to it with Rob's first year pick. Here we go.
Well, Smokey, we're both lovers of history, so the first year that I've picked for you to find a stamp to correspond to is 1867. Now, why did I pick 1867? You probably know why. I'm Canadian, and so that's the year of Canada's inception as its own nation. July 1st, 1867 is when we became a nation. So that's the first year I'm going with, 1867.
Well, Rob, you did not make it easy to start with, did you? 1867. So when I think about 1867, I immediately think of classics, things that have been around a very long time. And I've got to admit, this was the hardest stamp of all 5 years for me to pick. But in the end, I did pick one, and it's a stamp that I really, really like. And so let me show you that stamp now. This stamp was issued on July 13th, 1867. It was issued by the United Kingdom. It measures 21 by 24 millimeters, and it is Scott number 54A. It is part of a definitive series that features Queen Victoria. It has a face value of 1 British shilling. Now, part of my difficulty in picking a stamp from 1867 was that not every country was producing postage stamps. I mean, we're less than 30 years from the date that the penny black was first printed. So not every nation has started printing their own postage stamps. So that was one of the difficulties. Another difficulty was I really try on my channel to share with you stamps that most people can afford. I've shared with you a penny black, but that's a stamp that, yes, while it can be pricey, you can find a good quality penny black, and I think they're in a price range where most people can afford them. But when you start looking at stamps from 1867, you get into some stamps that are into the multiple hundreds of dollars, if not thousands of dollars. So I wanted a stamp that us as average collectors could afford, and this is one of those stamps. Now, it's not a inexpensive stamp by any means. You're not going to pick one up for $3 or $4, but you can pick them up surely for under $100, and so I think they're attainable to everyone. There were 48.5 million of these stamps printed, so they are readily available on internet sites and from dealers as well. Like I said, I picked this stamp because when I think of 1867, I think of the classical era, and I love this stamp. This stamp speaks the classics to me. It has a vibrant green color. I love the simplicity of the design, but also the detail of the design. The portrait of Queen Victoria. It is just an iconic image and a really beautiful stamp. Now, I have to confess, there's one more reason why I picked this stamp. Like I said, I was having difficulty deciding on which stamp to pick from this year. So I asked my wife, I said, I'm having some trouble. What stamps, what do you like? And now my wife is not a stamp collector, but she knows that I am. And so she oftentimes, from time to time, she'll look at stamps that I'm thinking about buying and give me her opinion. And so she looked at this stamp and she said, I love this stamp. And I said, great, that's the stamp I'm going to pick. And she said, do you know why I love it? And I said, well, no, probably because it's just a really beautiful stamp. And she said, well, look at the letters in the corners. And so on the image that I'm showing you, and now they're different from stamp to stamp, but this particular stamp has the letter C and L in the corner. My middle name starts with a C. My wife's middle name starts with an L. And she said, look, it's me and you and our initials on a stamp. So I said, it has to be this stamp. So Rob, this is my pick from 1867, Scott number 54A from the United Kingdom.
You might know that my stamp collecting comes from my father. I grew up watching him collect his stamps, and then he's passed it along to me. So I thought I would pick a year, or maybe you thought I would pick a year that would correspond to him. Well, I'm not. I'm going with my mother. I talk about my father a lot in the channel, and sometimes I neglect to talk about my mother and the bond that we have. She was born in 1935, and we had some great times. We still have great times together, but I have fond memories of going blueberry picking in the fields with my mother, and going in the kitchen and helping her cook and learning recipes, and probably that's where my love of cooking comes from. I have a lot to be thankful for and a lot to be grateful for that comes from my mother. So 1935 is your next task.
All right, 1935. Another great year. Thank you, Rob, for that. I'm so happy when I hear you talk about your mom and your dad and the really great relationship that you have with them. I also had a really good relationship with my parents as well. I miss them every day. So when I went to search for the stamp from 1935, I had my mom in mind. You picked the date because of your mom, and so I thought it fitting that I pick a stamp from 1935 that kind of reminded me of my mom. And so ultimately, this is what I chose. This stamp is from Australia. It was released on May 5th, 1935. It's Scott number 152. It's 27 by 36 millimeters. It is in carmine red. It has a face value of 2 Australian pennies, and it is commemorating the Silver Jubilee of King George V. Now, I chose this stamp for a couple reasons. The first reason is because of the designer of this stamp. The designer is a gentleman named Frank D. Manley. Now, Frank D. Manley designed many postage stamps and series of postage stamps over his career. In fact, just a year before this, in 1934, he designed another series of postage stamps for Australia featuring the merino sheep. Now, if you watch the very first episode of Snail Mail with Smokey, I talk about this set of stamps that Frank D. Manley designed featuring the merino sheep. It's one of my favorite series of stamps of all time, and I think Frank D. Manley is a really, really great stamp designer. So that's the first reason I chose the stamp. The second reason is because it reminded me of my mom. The color says carmine red, but to me it looks a little pink, and that was my mom's favorite color. Second of all, it features King George V. Now, my mom is probably the person most responsible for getting me interested in Great Britain. My mom was really interested in Great Britain. She really liked hearing about the royal family and things of that nature. It was my mom that had me reading Shakespeare when I was just in elementary school. It was my mom that showed me musicals on TV, that took me to plays whenever we could go. It was my mom that really tried to expand my culture and horizon to grow greater than that little town in Oklahoma that I grew up in. So I know Mom really liked King George V, as I do as well. So that's why I chose this stamp. That, and I just think it's a really nice looking stamp. So there you have it, Australia, Scott number 152 from 1935.
In 2001, the world kind of changed, and we all always think of September 11th, or at least we do in North America. Some amazing things came out of that. It was a horrific event, but if you ever got a chance to see the play or the movie Come From Away, you can see where people in Canada stepped up to help others from around the world. And that is one reason for 2001. But it's not the reason I'm picking that year. I'm picking that year because I wouldn't be that dad guy without that year. That was the year that my wife and I got married. A few months after 9/11 happened, we flew home from Vancouver back to New Brunswick, where our family had all gathered, our friends had gathered for Christmas season, and that's when we had our wedding. So some people think of 2001 as a bad year. I think of it as a fantastic year because that was the year that my wife and I decided to get married.
All right, 2001. Now, Rob, I've got to be really honest with you. When you gave me the years of the stamps you wanted to find, this is the one that I got super excited about. As soon as I heard you say 2001, I knew exactly which stamp I was going to choose. There was no debate. There was no searching. It was going to be this stamp. It was always going to be this stamp. So let me show you the stamp, and then I'll tell you why and why I'm so excited to share this with you. This stamp was released by Jersey on April the 3rd, 2001. It is Scott number 981A. It measures 30.2 by 25.2 millimeters. It has no face value, but it is part of a definitive series released by Jersey between the years of 2001 and 2005 called Jersey Agriculture. And this stamp features the world famous Jersey cows. So why am I so excited about a stamp with a bunch of cows on it? Well, let me tell you the story. Back in 2001, I was a single man looking for love. And I had no idea what was about to happen in my life. But internet dating was just beginning. There were one or two sites that you could go on, and so I was on one of those. And I began, after a short period of time, emailing back and forth with a really nice lady. And so we exchanged several emails over the course of some time until I got the courage up to ask her for her phone number. So she agreed to give me her phone number, and I called her one evening, and we had a wonderful conversation. And at the end of the conversation, I mustered up the courage and asked her if she would go out with me, and she agreed. We agreed to meet at a barbecue restaurant. Barbecue is one of my favorite kinds of food. It's also one of her favorite kind of foods. And so that's the first time that I met my wife face to face, was at that barbecue restaurant. Excuse me. So we walked into the restaurant together, and it's kind of it was a cafeteria style restaurant. You went down this long line and you told them what you wanted, and they put it on your plate, and then you went and sat down and you ate. So my wife and I sat there for 2 or 3 hours in the restaurant just talking about our different lives and where we had come from and our futures and our hopes, our dreams, our ambitions, our faith. We talked about everything in the world on that first date. And it seems like the longer time went by, the more food there was on our plate. And so this particular restaurant just really piled on the food. And we're talking and we're eating. And at one point during the meal, we look down and we're like, wow, this is so much food. And I believe it was my wife who said, yeah, this place gives you a half a cow to eat when you order food. And I said, that's hilarious. And so I laughed at her joke, partly because it was so funny and partly because I was so super nervous meeting this lady for the first time. So after 2 or 3 hours, we left the restaurant, but that half a cow stuck. And so as we continued to go on dates and to build our relationship, we got to the point where I guess most couples do, and you say those words, I love you. And that has always been something that I struggled with. And so my wife and I, early on in our relationship and even in our marriage, instead of saying I love you, we'll say half a cow. She'll walk in the house from work and she'll go, hi honey, half a cow. I'll go, hi hun, half a cow. And we each know that that means that we love the other. Now we say I love you all the time to each other. We say I love you to our children. But the phrase half a cow, it reminds both of us of that summer night back in 2001 where we first met each other and began the journey that continues to this day. So when you said that 2001 is the year that you got married, Rob, it is the year that I met my wife. We got married the next year in 2002. But 2001 must have been the year for love. It was for you, and it certainly was for me. And when it comes to love, nothing says I love you more than half a cow. And so that's why I chose this particular stamp to represent the year 2001.
What's stamp collecting without a little bit of adventure? So this is the year that I'm going to pick because it was an adventurous year for me. In 1998, my wife and I had both finished graduating university. She graduated in 96. I graduated in 97 because I took the 5-year program. And in January of 1998, we took 2.5 months to travel around Europe. It was the first big adventure that I had that I was kind of not on my own because I was with my girlfriend who would later become my wife. And we had to make a lot of decisions, just the two of us, what to eat, what to spend money on as far as whether it was gas in the car that we bought, a place to stay, or the meals that day, and where we were going to drive to, what new adventure, what new country we went to. We had a lot of amazing stories, a lot of experiences that we still look back fondly on, and some of them we laugh about now. So 1998 is a big year for me.
All right, 1998, another great year. I think it is so awesome, the story you tell about you and your wife taking off after university and just the two of you traveling through Europe. It must have been a great experience. All the things that you got to see and all the new experiences that you got to have. I'm sure that it is a memory that's going to last you for the rest of your life. And so that's kind of the inspiration I used when I chose this stamp. This stamp is Scott number 1820. It was released by the Royal Mail of United Kingdom on July 21st, 1998. It measures 41 by 30 millimeters. It has a face value of 20 pence. This stamp is part of a series of stamps released by the Royal Mail called Famous Children's Fantasy Novels. This particular stamp features The Hobbit, which was written by J.R.R. Tolkien. So why did I choose this Hobbit stamp? Well, just like the rest of the stamps, I have a couple of reasons for choosing it. The first is, Rob, I know you're a fan of The Lord of the Rings. I know you're a fan of The Hobbit. just like I am. So that's the first reason. The subject matter is just really cool. The Hobbit, the books, and the movies are so good, both those and the Lord of the Rings. And so the subject of this stamp just really appealed to me. The second reason is the reason that you chose this year. I couldn't help but think about you and your wife on this grand adventure by yourself, going all the way through Europe and all of the new experiences that you had. And you said you had to make a lot of decisions about where to stay and what to eat and what sights to take in. And so just like the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit, they are on a grand adventure. I kind of felt that's how you and your wife were back in 1998, that you were on this really grand adventure together through Europe, getting to know each other and also getting to know the new continent that you were on. So that's why I chose this stamp from 1998.
Narrowing down to 5 years in my life, in the life of history, is a really daunting task to do. And, I wanted to pick years of the birth of my children, maybe my birth year, could have been birth of my siblings that are important to me, events in history that kind of have changed either Canadian history, North American history, world history. Oh, there was a whole bunch of them that I wanted to pick. But I'm going to go with this one here. Now, I talked about my mother, and I talked about my father. I talked about my marriage. So I'm going to talk about their marriage. My father came from England. He set off on a new life, and he came to Canada, where he met my mother when they were both living in Nova Scotia. And in the small town of Truro, Nova Scotia, in 1953, they got married, which started this Lennox clan here in North America. Very blessed with the siblings that I have, with the life that my parents helped forge ahead and give me and my siblings. So thankful for the opportunities, and it all stems from them getting together, saying yes in 1953.
1953. First of all, I want to congratulate your mom and dad on so many wonderful years of marriage, and what an example they are to all of us who are following in their footstep. A tremendous accomplishment for them, and a huge congratulations to them. So this is the stamp that I picked for 1953. This stamp was released by Austria on December 5th, 1953. It measures 30 by 39 millimeters. Now, this is a semi-postal stamp or a charity stamp. It has a face value of 1 Australian shilling plus an additional 0.25 Austrian shillings. Now, while there were only 490,000 printed, you can readily pick one of these stamps up for just a couple of dollars off of eBay or Hip Stamp or another online dealer. Now, why did I pick this stamp? Well, I got to thinking about, Rob, your parents and their marriage and how you talked about them and how they have helped to shape who you are. And in thinking about that, it got me thinking about your dad and how he is a stamp collector and he has passed that tradition on to you. And Rob, you and I have connected primarily because of the hobby, because of stamp collecting. And so I thought, what a great thing. And so this stamp to me screams stamp collector. I mean, it's part of a series called Stamp Day. From the stamp album to the magnifying glass, everything on this stamp just says, I love collecting stamps. So that's why I picked it, because it represents the connection you have between your father and yourself of stamp collecting, and one that I'm sure that you're going to pass down to future generations. It's a passion that I have, and one that I hope to pass down to my children or grandchildren when I have those. And plus, it's just a really beautiful stamp. I think it is simplistic. I love the single color on it. I love the depth of the stamp, and it's a beautiful stamp, and I think it represents 1953 really, really well. Well, there you have it. 5 years and 5 different stamps that represent each of those years. What a amazing time I've had doing this. Rob, thank you so much for collaborating with me once again. And what a great challenge. Finding a single stamp to represent 1 year is a very daunting task. It is, it's almost like finding a needle in a haystack. It's trying to find, you know, your favorite food out of every food you've ever tried. And you have so many different choices. There are thousands of stamps to choose from each and every year. And so it was fun. I looked at a lot of stamps that I had never seen before. And so now my wish list of stamps has really grown. But like I said, Rob, thank you so much. It was a great time. Thank you all for watching. I really hope that you've enjoyed this video. I hope that you enjoy these stamp versus stamp videos as much as Rob and I enjoy bringing them to you. If you haven't done so yet, pop on over to That Dad Guy's channel and be sure to watch his stamp versus stamp video so you can see the 5 years that I've selected and why, and also look at the stamps that he's picked for those years. I know that it's going to be a really great video and that you will enjoy it. Don't forget to leave me a thumbs up, give me a comment, and if you haven't done so, please consider subscribing to the channel. I would really, really appreciate it. Well, once again, thank you so much for watching. Rob, thank you very much for another collaboration. I look forward to many more in the future. And until next time, have a great week. Bye-bye.